Blessings to you, people of God. Our passage is coming from 1 Kings 17, chapter 17, verses 8 to 16, and it says, "The jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah." Now, life often brings seasons of uncertainty, times when we feel like we don't have enough strength, resources, or hope to continue. But the story of Elijah and the widow of Zarephath teaches us a powerful lesson. God is our provider, even in the most desperate situations. He is our provider. Let that sink in. Now, in 1 Kings 17, we find a widow who was at the end of her rope, expecting death for herself and her son due to a severe famine. Yet, in that moment of lack and despair, God showed up through an unexpected miracle. Today, we will explore how this story teaches us about trusting God, obeying in faith, and experiencing His supernatural provision. First point, God's provision comes in unexpected ways. And we see that in 1 Kings 17, verses 8 to 9. It says, "Then the word of the Lord came to him, 'Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food.'" Elijah was in need, and God sent him to a widow, a person who was also struggling. This teaches us that God's provision doesn't always come from the places we expect. The widow thought she had nothing left, but God saw her lack as an opportunity for a miracle. In our day-to-day life, you may feel like you don't have much to offer, but God can use whatever little you have to bring blessings beyond what you imagine. Second point, your obedience activates God's miracles. That's in 1 Kings 17, chapters 17, verses 12 to 13. It says, "As surely as the Lord your God lives," she replied, "I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug." The widow was focused on her lack, but Elijah challenged her to step out in faith. God's miracles often require an act of obedience. The widow could have held on onto her last meal, but she trusted the word of the prophet. Sometimes in our lives, God will ask us to give when it feels impossible. Our time, our resources, our faith. But when we obey, we open the door for His provision. Thirdly, God's supply is always enough. 1 Kings 17, verses 15 to 16 says, "So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. The jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry." God multiplied what she had, and made it last. The miracle was not about getting rich, but about having enough every day. This teaches us that God's provision is daily. He gives us exactly what we need when we need it. In our day-to-day life, are you trusting God with today's needs, or are you worrying about the future? God is your provider. He will sustain you. In conclusion, trust God with your little. The story of Elijah and the widow reminds us that when we trust God, He will always provide. When we feel empty, God can fill us. When we feel like giving up, God brings hope. When we step out in faith, God does the impossible. So no matter what situation you're facing today, remember, God sees you. He knows your needs and He will provide. I'll say a little prayer for us today. Lord, help us to trust you, even when our resources seem small. Give us faith like the widow and remind us that you are always our provider. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, I hope this blesses somebody. I pray that we are doers of the word and not hearers only. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this message. Thank you to all my subscribers and everybody who's sharing the love of Christ on this channel. Until the next time, take care and bye-bye.